Hello, in this video, I'm going to run through every single blue card from Edge of Eternities and point out a home it could have in Commander and the commander that it might be playable with. First up is a reprint, a null, not super exciting, but it's a 1 blue instant, counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Baral, Chief of Compliance, is blue 1/1/3 legendary creature human wizard. Instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So a null says counter target artifact and enchantment spell, and then you'd also get to draw and discard. So it's playable in this deck. It's not record breaking. Atomic Microsizer is 1 blue for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, choose up to 1 target creature. That creature can't be blocked this turn and has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn and has equipped 2. And what deck has big creatures, cares about equipments, and is in blue? Arna Sky Captain. For 2 white, a blue, and a black, legendary creature, human knight, 4/4 with flying, lifelink, and ward to discard a card. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, double the number of each kind of counter on it. Then, for each non-token permanent attached to it, create a token that's a copy of that permanent attached to that creature. So Atomic Microsizer can be an equipment that counts as a copied permanent that can be copied and attached to it. And then you can choose a different creature that's attacked that you just doubled the number of counters on from, let's say, 5 to 10, and make that one unblockable. And its base power and toughness will be 1/1. But if you're doubling the number of counters, the base power and toughness does not matter. So Atomic Microsizer might have a home in a Sky Captain deck. Cerebral Download is 4 and a blue for an instant with Surveil X, where X is the number of artifacts you control, then draw 3 cards. To Surveil X, look at top X cards in your library, then put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order. Golbez Crystal Collector is blue and a black 1/4 legendary creature human wizard. Whenever an artifact you control enters Surveil 1, at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. So, surveilling can get you artifacts into your graveyard to return with your commander, and it can also draw you cards because you're going to have plenty of artifacts, and you're already going to be filling your graveyard, so it's just more surveil triggers if your deck cares about that, while getting you benefit of drawing cards, and you already have a ton of artifacts. So, I think Cerebral Download is a good card for the Crystal Collector. Next up is Cloud Sculpt Technician. For 2 and a blue, it's a creature jellyfish artificer with flying, and as long as you control an artifact, it gets +1/+0. Sinet Jelly Drover is 3 and a blue for a legendary creature human wizard 2/2. When it enters or dies, make a 1/1 blue jellyfish creature token, and creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. So if you are building a jellyfish deck, Cloud Sculpt Technician can fit right in. It has flying, which our commander would care about, and it's another jellyfish for the deck. There are not enough jellyfishes. There are some in this set, and so it's a decent card for Sinet Jelly Drover. Next is Code Cracker Hound. For 2 and a blue, it's a creature dog. When this creature enters, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put up to 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard, and then it has Warp 2 and a blue. It's a 2/1. What blue commander cares about dogs? Sophia Dogged Detective is 1, a green, a white, and a blue for a legendary creature human detective. When it enters the battlefield, create Tiny, a legendary 2/2 green dog detective creature token with Trample. 1 second artifact token, put a ++ count on each dog you control. Whenever a dog you control deals combat damage to a player, create a food token, then investigate. Having more access to more dogs and being able to draw a card essentially when this dog enters is pretty good. So, get you some value there. Consult the Star Charts is blue at a 1 for an instant with kicker 1 and a blue. Look at the top X cards in your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put 1 of those cards to your hand. If this spell is kicked, put 2 of those cards to your hand instead. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. I think this is playable with an Aelia Cunning Conqueror commander deck. Plenty of commanders, but I'm going to choose this one. For 2, a blue and a black, it's a legendary creature, Fairy Warlock with flying. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, create a 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue creature token with flying. Whenever 1 or more fairies you control deal combat damage to a player, go target creature that player controls. This being an instant for 2 mana makes it so that it triggers the first spell you cast during an opponent's turn. So while Consult the Star Charts will be good in a lot of commander decks, this one happens to care about casting instants on your opponent's turn. and I think would be good in that deck. Next is Chirogen Relic. For 1 and a blue, it's an artifact. Whenever this artifact enters or leaves, draw a card, and then you can pay 1 blue, sack it, put a stun counter up to 1 target tapped creature. Mishra Eminent 1 is 2, a blue, a black, and a red. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of target non-creature artifact you control, except its name is Mishra's Warform, and it's a 4/4 construct artifact creature in addition to its other types. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. If you're playing Mishra, you're already going to be playing probably 2 mana artifacts that enter or leave, draw a card. And I think Chirogen Relic would be an upgrade to those cards, because you have the choice of paying to sack it to put a stun counter on a tapped creature, and you're going to have to sacrifice it anyway. So it just has a little more utility than the 2 mana artifacts. I mean, it costs blue and the other artifacts don't, but I think this is a decent upgrade to Mishra Eminent 1, especially just straight out the box Pruton. Cairo Shatter is 1 blue for enchantment aura with enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -5, -0, and whenever enchanted creature becomes tapped or is dealt damage, destroy it. And we care about enchantments that go to the graveyard, so we recast them with Muldrotha the Gravetide. For 3, a black, a green, and a blue. It's a legendary creature, elemental avatar 6/6. During each of our turns, you may play a land and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from the graveyard. So you can continue to cast Cairo Shatter from your graveyard for just 1 blue. So it adds a lot of utility in the slot, and then every single time it becomes tapped or is dealt damage, destroy it. So, and they can just continue to keep using it while preventing -5, -5. The Sculpting Blast is 1 and a blue for an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If it goes attacking, create a 1/1 colorless drone artifact creatures have flying, and this token can block only creatures with flying. Gimbal Gremlin Prodigy is 2, a green, a blue, and a red. It's a legendary creature, Gremlin Artificer. Artifact creatures you control have trample. At the beginning of your end step, create a 0/0 red Gremlin artifact creature token. Put X plus encounters on it, where X is the number of differently named artifact tokens you control, and it's a 4/4. I don't know of any other cards before this set that create drones tokens. So this card will give your deck access to returning something to an opponent's hand. And if it happens to be attacking, you get a drone, which is another kind of differently named token. So Gimbal Gremlin Prodigy might want that temporary removal and an additional kind of token. Divert Disaster is blue and a 1. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. If you do, you create a lander token. And what the commander cares about lands, but Zaman Mystery Unraveler. Whenever a land enters under your control. Manifest Dread, if this is the first time this ability is resolved this turn. Otherwise, you may turn a permanent you control face up. Not a great addition, but if you cast Divert Disaster early in the game or later in the game, you can just use it to trigger your landfall. And because you need it to resolve twice in the same turn, you won't always have an Evolving Wilds or a fetch land. Divert Disaster can give you that lander token. Emissary Escorts is blue and a 1 artifact creature, Robot Soldier. This creature gets +X+0, where X is the greatest mana value among other artifacts you control. And Shurikai Genesis Engine is 2, a white and a blue. Our legendary artifact vehicle. 1 tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token. With this creature, cruise vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. It has crew 8, and then it can be your commander. In the deck where this is your commander, you're going to be playing a ton of huge artifacts, whether you're playing big spacecrafts, big vehicles, just other good artifacts that give all of your permanents affinity for artifacts or indestructible. An Emissary Escort would fit right in, while getting big power quickly, which can crew our commander fairly easily. Next up, I have Gigastorm Titan. For 4 and a blue, it's a creature elemental 4/4. With this spell, costs 3 less to cast if you cast another spell this turn. Gandalf Westward Voyager is 3, a green and a blue for a 5/5 legendary creature avatar wizard. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, each opponent reveals the top card of their library. If any of those cards share a card type with that spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy, and each opponent draws a card. Otherwise, you draw a card. So my thought is here, if you've already cast 1 spell with mana value 5 or greater, the Gigastorm would be a 2 mana spell with 5 mana value. So it would trigger it again, but for less mana. So if you wanted to do it twice in the same turn, seems like a decent way to get 2 spells off and use your Gandalf's value efficiently. Next up is Ilvoy Galeblade. For 1 blue, it's a creature jellyfish warrior, 1/1 flash flying, 2 sack it, draw a card. I think it's playable in Sonic the Hedgehog. For 1 blue, red, white, legendary creature, hedgehog warrior, 2/4 haste. I just wanted to say this the first time I ever said the words Sonic the Hedgehog in relation to Magic, and I smirked. It's ridiculous. But whenever Sonic the Hedgehog attacks, put a +++ counter on each creature you control with flash or haste. Whenever a creature you control with flash or haste is dealt damage, create a tapped treasure token. There's another flash, and it has flying. Not all of the hasters have flying. Of course, you can get some in red, but this seems like a early game. 1 blue, get it in play, get some value, sack when you need to draw a card. Playable in Sonic the Hedgehog. Ilvoy Infiltrator is 2 and a blue for a creature jellyfish rogue. This creature can't be blocked if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Anoan, the Ruined Thief is 2 a blue and a black for a legendary creature vampire rogue. Other rogues you control get +1/+1, and this is a rogue. Whenever 1 or more rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, this can't be blocked if you cast multiple spells. That player mills a card for each 1 damage dealt to them. If that player mills at least 1 creature card this way, you draw a card. So there's rogues here, there's unblockable here, and there's multiple instances of card draw here, making this a decent rogue to play with the Ruined Thief. Next up is Ilvoy Light Jammer. For blue and a 1, it's an artifact equipment with flash. Whenever it enters, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains hexproof until end of turn. And has equipped creature +1/+2, and then equipped 3. Noctis, Prince of Lucas, or Lucius, is 1, a white, a blue, and a black for a legendary creature, human noble, a 4/3 with lifelink body. You may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to playing their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that artifact enters this finality counter on it. Now, this doesn't say you can only do it once per turn or only at sorcery speed, so in theory, if the equipment is in your graveyard and your opponents don't realize it's in your graveyard, they can target one of your things, you can pay 3 life, and then play the jammer and hexproof away their spell. Seems like a decent use of the jammer, and there's other flats or equipment that do the same thing, so seems like it could be good. Ilvoy Operative is 1 in a blue for a creature jellyfish rogue. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a ++ counter on it, and then Alfinad Leveler is a 3 in a blue for legendary creature elf wizard that partners with Vigilance. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. So if you need a cheap card that can, for only 2 mana, that can also trigger off casting your second spell, and because it's only 2 mana, it can be your first or your second spell easily in a turn, you can draw a card and put a ++ counter on it. Seems pretty good. Lost in Space is 3 blue for an instant. Target artifact or creature's owner puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library. Surveil 1. Mirko, Obsessive Theorist, is 1 a blue and a black, a legendary creature, 1/3, vampire detective with flying and vigilance. Whenever you surveil, put a +++ counter on Mirko, Obsessive Theorist. At the beginning of your end step, you may return target creature card with power less than its from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So if you just need as many triggers as surveil as possible, since you're probably going to be playing a lot of surveil cards, Lost in Space is just another card you can add to your arsenal that surveils. It's not a great card, but just having incidental surveil is going to be good in your surveil-based decks. Mechan Assembler is 4 in a blue for an artifact creature robot artificer. It's a 4/4. Whenever another artifact you control enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Urza Chief Artificer is 3 white, blue, and a black. It's a legendary creature human artificer, and it's a 4/5. Affinity for artifact creatures. Artifact creatures you control have menace. And at the beginning of your end step, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So you're already going to be playing multiple kinds of artifacts. This is going to give you additional artifacts and make your constructs bigger and bigger. Because it says whenever another artifact enters, not only whenever another token enters. So it can even trigger if you cast no other artifacts in the turn. Your Urza makes a token, and then you also get a 2/2. So a little more value for your Urza decks. Mechan Navigator is blue and a 1 for a 2/1 artifact creature robot pilot. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Tocasia, Dig Site Mentor, is 1 and green and a white and a blue for legendary creature Human Artificer as a 4/3 with creatures you control at Vigilance and tap Surveil 1. Then you can pay 8 mana to exile it from your graveyard, return any number of target artifact cards with total mana value 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. So, it can get the tap ability through Veil 1, and you'll draw and discard, so it'll fill the graveyard faster. Plus, if you need to exile it and don't have anything else you can get, you could just get back this artifact creature. So it has a lot of synergies, a lot of little synergies with the deck, which makes it a pretty good card in Commander. Mechan Shieldmate is 1 and a blue for a 3/2 with Defender, artifact creature, robot soldier. As long as an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, this creature can attack as though it didn't have Defender. I just want to start by saying this card is bad. I just had to find a home for it. So the home I found for it is Belisarius Call, 2 white and a blue for a legendary artifact creature human 2/4. Ultima Founding tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Create a 2/2 white warrior creature token with vigilance. Master of Machines tap X untapped creature you control. Tap X cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them, put it into your hands. But the rest is the bottom of your library in a random order. This deck just cares about creating a bunch of crappy artifacts and doing things with them. And what other example of a crappy artifact than Mechan Shieldmate? Mechanozoa is 4 a blue and a blue artifact creature robot jellyfish. Whenever this creature enters, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it and warp 3. Emoti, Celebrant of Bounty, is 3 a green and a blue for a legendary creature Naga Druid with Cascade. And Cascade spells you cast with converted mana cost 6 or greater have Cascade. So the trick here is that you can, if you have your commander Emoti in play, you can pay 3 mana off the warp, and when you cast it, its mana costs, you exile cards on top of your library from 6 or less, and it has Cascade. So for 3 mana, you get a 5/5 for 1 turn, but you also get a Cascade trigger off the 6. So that is another use of these warp cards. Mental Modulation is 1 and a blue for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast during your turn. Tap target artifact, feature, draw a card. Octavia, Living Thesis, is 8 blue for a legendary creature, Elemental Octopus 8/8. This spell costs 8 less to cast if you have 8 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard. It has Ward 8 and Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature has base power 8 on turn. So you can cast this, tap a block, or draw a card, fill up your graveyard, make something into an 8/8. But it also just has art synergy in the fact that's totally a jellyfish creature. It's totally an octopus creature. It just has that elemental feel, that sea creature feel. And so it's a decent instant that you can just cycle. Because if you cast it during your turn, it's just 1 blue draw card. So it just like cycles and incidentally tap something. So it has some value there, but it seems like a fun little addition to your jellyfish / octopus type deck. Memnon, the right hand, is 3 a blue and a blue for legendary creature Jellyfish Advisor 3/4 with flying. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast artifact spells from the top of your library. Artifacts you control have tap, add blue. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. And Johora, Weatherlight Captain, is 2 a blue and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature, Human Artificer. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. So this can just give you more access to cast more things from the top of your deck than the card that's already in your hand. So my vision for the deck is if you're playing a Cheerios deck, you have Johora in play and Memnon in play. You cast a 0-cast artifact, you draw a card. If the card you drew is not a 0-cast artifact, and the top card of the library is, and you cast one from the top of your library, and then you draw another card. Maybe that card isn't the top card of the library. And so you can just keep you just get access to more cards to Cheerio off of a combo off with. So seems like a decent addition to a combo deck there. Moonlit Meditation is 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant an artifact or creature you control. The first time you create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of enchanted permanent. And Zinnia, Valley's Voice, is blue, a red and a white for a 1/3 legendary creature, Bird Bard, flying. It gets +X with 0. X is the number of creatures you control with base power 1. Creature spells you control have offspring 2. So you can put this onto, let's say, Cathar's Crusade. And then literally every single time you cast a creature with offspring 2, you make another Cathar's Crusade. Well, counter to say is an enchantment. Enchant artifacts, creates control. There's plenty of things you can copy here, and you get a lot of synergy off of. You're already making a ton of tokens in this deck, and now you can have them be anything, not just the creature you cast. Mouth of the Storm is a 7-mana elemental 6/6. When it enters, creature your opponent's token -B/-0 until end of turn. And Horde of Nations, loved elementals. For white, a blue, a black, a red, and a green. It's a 5/5. Vigilance, Trample, Haste. And you can pay 1 of each Warburg. You may play a target elemental card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And this is just a big dumb idiot you can get into play with the Horde of Notions. Nanoform Sentinel is 2 and a blue for an artifact creature robot 3/2. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, untap another target permanent. This ability triggers only once each turn. I know I use the same commander twice, but Sakurai, Thorikai, Genesis Engine, 2, a blue and a white, legendary artifact vehicle, 1 tap. You can use that ability. Every time this creature becomes tapped to crew it, you can untap to your commander. So you can use that ability again in the same turn, which is pretty cool. So you always have something you can tap to, because you can always tap it to start crewing your vehicle, even if you don't have enough. Well, I guess you have to tap that way. So you would tap to crew it, and then you get the value of untapping just to be able to tap it again. So that's pretty cool there. Quantum Riddler is 3, a blue and a blue for a creature Sphinx. Flying, when this creature enters, draw a card. It's a 4/6. As long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, if you would draw 1 or more cards, you may draw that many cards plus 1 instead. And it has warp 1 and a blue. The warp is important to note with Obeka Brute Chronologist. For 1, a blue, a black, and a red. It's a 3/4 legendary creature, Ogre Wizard. With tap, the player whose turn it is may end the turn. So you can warp it into play, tap your Obeka, and it stays in play, because the end of turn and this turn effects wear off. So you get to keep your 2-mana Quantum Riddler and all of the other warp cards for that point and play with your Obeka deck. And Quantum Riddler is one of the best warp cards, so it's pretty cool there. Scour for Scrap is 3 and a blue instant. Choose 1 or both. Search your library for an artifact card available and put it to you on this shuffle. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Emery, Lurker of the Lock, is 2 and a blue for legendary creature Merfolk Wizard, affinity for artifacts. When it enters mill 4, tap, choose an artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. This gives us access to tutors, which we aren't playing red or black. That, the blue tutors for sorceries, red can tutor for artifacts, and black can tutor for anything. If you're playing just mono blue, this can help you search for the artifact according to your hand or return some of your graveyard in. Seems like some value for Emery, Lurker of the Lock for sure. Next up is Self-Craft Mechanin. For 3 and a blue, when this creature enters, you may sacrifice an artifact. When you do, put a +1 counter on target creature and draw a card. A 3/4. Marchasia, the Black Rose, Marchasia, is 1, a blue, a black, and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard with Dethrone. Other creatures you can hold have Dethrone. And whenever a creature you control with a +1 counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So when Self-Craft Mechanin enters, if you sacrifice an artifact creature, you can put a +1 counter on a different creature like this Self, and you would draw a card. So it gives you card draw. It helps something die that can just come back into play. Self-Craft Mechanin is playable in a Marchasia, the Black Rose commander deck. Next is Sinister Chronologist. For 2 and a blue, it's whenever this creature enters, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-0 until end turn, and then warp blue. Doc Urlock, Grizzled Genius, is green and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature Bear Druid. Spells you cost from your graveyard or exile cost 1 less to cast, and playing cards from your hand cost 2 less. So, my idea here is that if you're playing a Pauper commander, Doc, you can cast your Chronologist for 1 blue, and then when it's in exile, it just costs 1 blue to put a 2/3 into play. Sinister Chronologist is not a good card, but it's playable if you're playing, just common. So, I wanted to include it here. Specimen Freighter is 5 and a blue. Whenever this spacecraft enters, return up to 2 target non-spacecraft creature tokens to the owner's hands. Seems very good to copy with our max-speeded Mechanin Core Guidelight. For white and a blue, our commander would be an X3. Whenever it's a legendary artifact creature robot. When its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control, and when it enters, you start your speed. And whenever you cast an artifact spell, pay 1 if you do copy it. So you're to be able to return 4 non-spacecraft creatures to our hands. Seems like a lot of value for copying. Starbreach Whale is 4 and a blue for a 3/5 creature whale with flying. Whenever the creature enters, Veil 2 and it has Warp 2. Juralf, Visionary Stitcher, is 2 and a blue for a legendary creature human wizard. Zombies you control are flying, it's a 1/4. Blue tap, sack another non-token creature, create an XX blue zombie creature token, or X the sacrifice creature's toughness. So here's what I'm trying to think here. If you pay a 1 and a blue, you warp this into play, you sack it to your Geralf, and then instead you get a 5/5, and then it's a zombie that has flying. So for 3 mana, you get a 5/5 with flying. I don't know if that's great, but it's just something cute you can do. Starfield Vocalist is 3 and a blue, creature, human, bard. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control trigger, that ability triggers additional time. And who loves permanents entering and triggering things more than Omnath Locus of Creation? I literally sleeved the Starfield Vocalist into my Omnath Locus of Creation deck this morning. For a red, a green, a white, and a blue, it's a legendary creature elemental. When it enters, you draw a card, so that would trigger. Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under control, you gain 4 life. That would trigger it again. If it's the first time this ability is resolved this turn. Second time, add red, a green, a white, and a blue. That triggers. And then if it's a third time, it deals 4 damage to each opponent, each planeswalker you don't control. And you have tons of other landfall in the deck. You're going to have a ton of things that trigger multiple times off the Starfield Vocalist. It's crazy good. So, and then you can also just pay 2 to warp it into play early in the game if you just need to do something like that. Starwinder is 5 and a blue creature Leviathan. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards, and you can warp it into play for 2 and blue. Korea, Sovereign of the Deep, is 3, a green and a blue for a legendary creature, Merfolk Noble. It's a 4/5 with Vigilance and Ward 3. Whenever you cast a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent spell from your hand, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value less than X from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is just another Leviathan that can trigger our Kyora, Sovereign of the Deep. So it's pretty good, and then you can just warp it into play whenever you cast from your hand, look up X or X spell's mana value. So you pay 4, but get 7 mana value worth of value, and then you can just cheat something to 6 into play, which is super cool. And then still have the Star Wielder up for another turn, Starwinder. Steel Swarm Operator is 1 and a blue for an artifact creature robot soldier. Tap, add blue, only cast artifact spell. Tap, add blue to cast activated abilities of artifact sources. Memnarch is 7 mana for a legendary artifact creature wizard 4/5. 3, target permanent becomes an artifact, and then blue 3, gain control of target artifacts. This is just another artifact for the deck, and it can give you 2 mana towards the 4th, gaining control of artifacts, or 7, total to make something artifact and gain control of it. So it's some mana generation for your Memnarch deck. Synthesizer Lab Ship is 1 blue for an artifact spacecraft. If it has 2 or more counters, at the beginning of combat you turn, up to 1 target artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power. The toughest 2/2 until I've said. And then for 9 charts counters or higher, it's a flying vigilance 4/4. Brea Ethereum Shaper is white, blue, black, and a red for a 4/4 legendary artifact creature human. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying, and you can pay 2, sack 2 artifacts to choose 1. They can deal 3 damage to target player, planeswalker, target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn, or you gain 5 life. So the Spacecraft is a good card by itself. You can just use your incidental 1/1s to crew it. So in theory, Brea, whenever it comes into play, you can use those 2 1/1s to crew the lab ship, and then you can still sacrifice the tapped tokens to Brea. And then the Incidental Light Ship can just make your little incidental artifacts be able to attack and just end the game sooner. So Synthesizer Lab Ship for just 1 blue is also sacrificeable cheap. I think there's a lot of value with the Lab Ship in a Brea deck. Tractor Beam is 2, a blue, and a blue. It's an enchantment aura. Enchant creature or spacecraft. When it enters, you tap enchanted permanent. You gain control of enchanted permanent. And it does untap during its controller's untap step. Now, Nihilor. I'm not sure how to say that, but it's 2, a white, a blue, and a black for legendary creature horror. When it enters, for each opponent, tap up to 1 untapped creature you control. If you do, gain control of target creature that player controls with power less than or equal to the tapped creature's power for as long as you control it. Whenever you attack with a creature an opponent owns, you gain 2, and that player loses 2. Tractor Beam can just have us gain control and get more triggers off of attacking with things we control than don't own. So Tractor Beam is a decent card for this horror deck. Unravel is blue 1 counter target spell. If the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is less than its mana value, you draw a card. And then Y'shtola Knight's Blessed is 1, a white, a blue, and a black for legendary creature Cat Warlock. It's Vigilancing 2/4. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So Unravel is a non-creature spell with mana value 3 that, because in Commander there is so much times we cast things for less than their mana costs or their mana value, Unravel will let you draw a card and then Y'shtola will deal the damage. So Unravel is playable in the Knight's Blessed Cat Warlock deck. Earthros Scionist is 2 and a blue for a creature jellyfish scientist. It's a 2/4 with the second spell you cast each turn costs 2 left to cast. Pygam Master Opportunist is 1 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary creature human monk with flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it, then exile the spell you cast with 4 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. So, my thought here is that the jellyfish scientist can make your second spell so cheap that you're triggering flurry as often as you can. So I think it adds some value to the deck. Next up is the Uthros Scan Ship. For 3 and a blue, it's an artifact spacecraft. When it enters, draw 2 cards and discard a card. And once it's 8 or higher, and it's flying. And then our command of the Ancient One can crew it right away. But it's a blue and a black. It can't attack or block unless there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard. And then you can pay 2, a blue and a black, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a card this way, target player mills cards equal to the mana value. So this is just another big thing that can be in your graveyard, but it can immediately crew the Scan Ship, which is kind of fun. And then also the Scan Ship can draw 2 and discard a card, and you can discard permanent card for the Ancient One. Weft Walking is 4 and a blue for an enchantment. It has, when this enchantment enters, if you cast it, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards. The first spell each player casts during each of your turns may be cast without paying its mana cost. And what else to play is the group hug and then the 2 kings themselves. For a red, a green, a white, and a blue. Legendary feature, Human Soldier 2/8. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Each player may put a land card from their hand onto the battlefield. Then each opponent who didn't draws a card. So just play it in your group hug deck, and then the Kings of Meletis will be your group hug commander, and then you can also use Weft Waking to make each player cast the first spell each turn for free. So definitely leans into the group hug atmosphere. Next is Uthros Titanic God Core. It's a land planet. It enters tapped, adds blue, and has station. If it's 12 or higher, blue tap, add blue for each artifact you control. Definitely playable in Urza Lord High Artificer decks. For 2, a blue and a blue, it's legendary creature, Human Artificer. When it enters, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control, add blue. 5, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So you're going to have tons of artifacts, and you can just keep sacking the random incidental powered ones, and then your construct can get pretty big pretty fast too. And then the Titanic God Core can just create a bunch of blue mana for you because you have a ton of artifacts and artifact tokens, and you can tap those artifacts for blue, which gives you access to a lot of mana. Those are all of the blue cards in Edge of Eternities, and I picked out a commander that would be playable with each. Now, not all of the cards are good, but it, in theory, could be played in each of these decks. You may know your thoughts on these cards and my picks in the comments below. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor.